pigments in a hole? Why are zombie pigments take my gold? Oh, I wonder what they're gonna trade with me. Full of netherite armor!
These have gotta be the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns because the speedrunners are absolutely terrible at hiding the fact that they're cheating. This speedrun starts inside of a spruce biome, and the first thing that the speedrunner does is run directly to a ship, which definitely isn't suspicious at all. Once they get inside the ship, they for some reason find a wither skeleton. I thought wither skeletons only spawn inside the desert where it's hot, not inside of a random ship. Well, the wither skeleton hits the speedrunner, so the speedrunner just keeps on beating up the wither skeleton until eventually it dies. The speedrunner then opens the chest and surprisingly finds some pretty normal loot, so they take most of the loot and exit the ship. But then for some reason, they go inside of their settings and just start turning on and off a bunch of random settings. Once they're done doing that, they immediately start digging straight down and find a chest. Now, I have a weird feeling that there are some suspicious items inside of this chest. And if I'm right, I think everyone should subscribe. Well, the speedrunner opens up the chest and finds tons of suspicious items. So I guess that means that everyone now has to subscribe. They take all of the iron, diamonds, and even the ender pearl and build out of the hole. They then, for some reason, just randomly throw their ender pearl, and once it lands, they're in the nether. Alright, this speedrun is definitely cursed. In the nether, we can find some weird path of just this random wood. So of course, the speedrunner follows the path, but some hoglins try and kill them. So he absolutely jukes the hoglins, and at the end of the path is just a normal tree. So the speedrunner starts mining the tree, and that's when the tree suddenly drops item frames and blaze powder, which in case you didn't know is completely fake. They keep on mining the tree and just keep on getting blaze powder. They eventually get 12 blaze powder and also 6 logs, which they use to make themselves a crafting table. They then use the crafting table to make themselves a diamond sword, diamond pants, and a full set of iron armor. They then begin to make their way back towards the portal and go back into the overworld. Once they're back in the overworld, they're in the middle of nowhere. So they just randomly go into the forest and wander around for a little bit until they find a village. But one of the houses inside the village looks a little bit weird. So the speedrunner enters this house and opens the chest to find tons of ender pearls. Okay, this speedrunner is cheating harder than my dad cheats on my mom. Wait, what? The speedrunner uses the blaze powder and the ender pearls to make themselves some eyes of ender. They then start stealing some potatoes from the villager's farm, and that's when they find a random end portal. Even though I could have sworn that end portals only spawn inside of strongholds, not inside of villages. Well, the speedrunner places in all of the eyes of ender and enters the end. Once they're in the end, things seem pretty normal. There's endermen, all the pillars look normal, and the wither is full HP. Wait, what? The wither? I thought the ender dragon spawns in the end, not the wither. Well, the wither goes around shooting everyone, and the speedrunner sees that the portal is wide open. So instead of killing the wither, the speedrunner just goes to the portal and beats the speedrun. The speedrunner starts just simply walking until they suddenly decide to break the roof with their wooden shovel. They break the roof, but then a skeleton shoots their bow at them, and the skeleton starts cranking 90s. So then Steve starts cranking 90s. The speedrunner then places down TNT and a pressure plate and launches the TNT to the skeleton, which ends up killing it, and the speedrunner wins the game. Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I am so sorry. I am super duper close to 30,000 subscribers, so if you could subscribe, that would genuinely make my day. This speedrunner starts right next to a village, so they immediately head right into the village and enter a house which has a chest, and inside the chest is surprisingly some pretty normal loot. So the speedrunner takes all of the loot, puts on the pants, and leaves the house. The speedrunner runs around and sees a ruined portal out in the distance, which I'm not gonna lie, a ruined portal right next to a village is an insanely lucky spawn. But first, the speedrunner grabs some wheat and go up to a house and start breaking the log, which they turn into planks to make themselves a crafting table. They then use that crafting table to make themselves some bread. Now that the speedrunner has tons of food, they then head towards the ruined portal, which is only missing a few obsidian. As the speedrunner gets closer, they open the chest and find 2 more obsidian, and also some pretty normal loot as well. Surprisingly, this speedrun doesn't seem too fake, everything just seems really lucky. But the speedrunner can't place the obsidian because it's just way too high. So they then begin mining some grass, but then they run all the way back towards their crafting table, which they use to turn their iron nuggets into iron iron ingots, but they only have 1 iron ingot. But that's when we can suddenly see that there is some iron on the ground right here for some reason. So the speedrunner picks up the iron and uses it to make themselves an iron pickaxe. And not only that, but also an iron sword. They then head back towards the ruin portal and place in the obsidian and build up and place some more obsidian, which they coincidentally had the exact right amount, which could just be extremely lucky. But the speedrunner uses their fire charge that they got from the ruin portal chest to light the nether portal. They then enter the nether. But once they're in the nether, things are pretty weird because there are tons of nether portals, which I've actually never seen before. Where the speedrunner just walks past the nether portals except for this last one, which they end up just walking straight through and find 2 llamas. And behind the llamas is a piglin head with a chest and a sign that says Wandering PP Trader. Well, I've never heard of a Wandering PP Trader before, but it could have just been in the newest update. Well, the speedrunner opens the chest and finds tons of ender eyes. Oh my god, that is definitely not legit. Well, the speedrunner takes all of the ender eyes and starts making their way back towards their nether portal. Once they're back in the overworld, they start heading back towards the village, where they find a sign that says, "There was nothing in this hole, I pinky promise." Yeah, right. But the speedrunner goes into the hole and just sits there. Well, you know, I guess there actually is nothing in the hole. So the speedrunner just builds out of the hole and runs around the village some more, until the speedrunner finds this weirdly placed water. And inside the water is a secret tunnel, which for some reason has nothing inside of it. Well, the speedrunner for some reason goes into the marketplace, and they just start looking at cool dinosaurs, aliens, secret doors, and Star Wars. They click on this Star Wars thing and just look at it for a little bit until they suddenly go out of the shop and there's just an end portal here. I think the speedrunner was just trying to distract us while they magically placed an end portal here. Well, the speedrunner places in their very legit Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once they're in the end, they jump to the island and start climbing this naturally generated staircase. Once they're on top of the island, they find a random ender pearl, so they just pick it up and throw it. And once it lands, they look around and there is just no ender dragon. And because of that, the speedrunner just goes to the portal and beats the speedrun. This speedrun starts in the desert, but they're right next to a desert pyramid. So they start heading over towards the pyramid, but also break some dead bushes on their way there for some sticks. But randomly, while they're on their way there, they break a block beneath this cactus and find a chest which has tons of ender pearls. They then use those ender pearls to get closer towards the pyramid, and once they're in there, they start breaking the block and jump down, but for some reason, there is no pressure plate, which I've actually never seen before inside of a pyramid. The speedrunner opens the first chest and finds some normal loot, but they open the second chest and find a decent amount of diamonds, but also a crafting table. I'm pretty sure crafting tables can't just randomly spawn inside of pyramids. They place on the crafting table and make themselves a diamond pickaxe. They then open the next chest and find tons of blaze powder. They take the blaze powder and open the next chest, which has nothing. Okay then. They then randomly break behind this wall and find a giant area with an end portal. So the speedrunner takes their ender pearls and their blaze powder to make themselves some Eyes of Ender. They place in the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, they find a path of beds, which has gotta be the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen. They go across the path of beds, and once they're at the main island, there's for some reason just no endermen, and there's also tons of random end crystals by the dragon. So the speedrunner blows up the crystals, which damages the dragon. But then the dragon heals super fast, so I think the speedrunner gets mad because a random cut happens and they suddenly have strength. They then spend the next 30 minutes killing the ender dragon until eventually it dies and they win the speedrun. This speedrunner starts inside of a desert village, and the first thing they do is grab some wheat. They also find some dead tree plant thingies and place them down so that way they can break them and get sticks. The speedrunner then finds a blacksmith, and inside the blacksmith chest is some pretty normal loot other than the fact that there's a water bucket, because I'm pretty sure that water buckets do not spawn inside of blacksmiths. Well, they take the relatively normal loot and break some more dead plant tree thingies, that way they have 4 sticks. But that's when they suddenly find 4 chests. The speedrunner opens up the first chest and finds tons of diamonds. The speedrunner then opens the second chest and finds more diamonds? Okay then. Well, the speedrunner goes to the third chest and finds more diamonds. I have a suspicious feeling that this last chest has diamonds inside of it. So if I'm right, I think everyone should subscribe. subscribe. Well, the speedrunner opens up the chest and finds tons of diamonds. Well, I guess that means you have to subscribe. Well, the speedrunner has about 1 billion diamonds now, but instead of using their diamonds, they find a lava pool. But wait, do you notice anything strange about this lava pool? Well, normal lava pools like this usually have some stones surrounding it, and this lava pool clearly has 0 stone, which means the speedrunner must have built this lava pool himself. Well, I'm gonna save you the trouble of watching the next 15 minutes of the speedrun because I promise you it's nothing but this speedrunner absolutely failing to try to make another portal. I think they watched one dream video and they're like, yeah, I could do that, but they clearly cannot. They then go back to their chests and count 5 blocks diagonal from one of the chests and break the block and find a crafting table. They use this crafting table to make themselves full diamond armor and some diamond tools. Also, when they finish the portal, they don't have a flint and steel. So how the heck are they gonna let the nether portal in? What? Okay, rewind the footage, because I'm pretty sure the nether portal was definitely not lit. When the speedrunner goes into the nether and immediately finds a bastion, which is actually a pretty lucky nether spawn. Not only that, as soon as they enter it, they find tons of gold. So they take this gold and make it into ingots, and right after, they find a hole filled with piglins. So they start spamming tons of their gold onto the piglins until they end up getting 3 ender pearls, which in case you didn't know is actually not enough to be able to go to the end. When the speedrunner leaves the nether with their 3 ender pearls, and once they're in the overworld, they for some reason go to open a chest, and what the heck? Alright, I could have sworn that chest was empty last time, but maybe I just have some weird memory loss. Once the speedrunner takes the ender eyes, they go up to a cactus and break it, and even dig beneath the cactus, but there's literally nothing there. So they go up to another cactus, break it, and what the heck is that? Alright, well, I guess the speedrunner is now in the end. And when they're in the end, they find a very real path that leads them right to the island. So they go across the path and into the end, where they find nothing but a sign, which says, "You are so ugly, the dragon no want alive?" Come on, the speedrunner can't be that ugly. Oh my god. The speedrunner goes through the end portal and beats a speedrun. Oh my god, I'm thinking I'm gonna puke. This speedrunner starts by going up to a chest and finding a chicken. Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. If you could subscribe, that would genuinely make my day. This speedrunner literally spawns in the middle of nowhere, which in case you didn't know is an absolutely terrible spawn for a speedrun. And this speedrun gets very strange very quickly because they first started out by beating up a random turtle for literally no reason. They eventually kill the turtle and get a seagrass from it. They then feed the seagrass to another turtle and then start, wait, what the heck is going on? Pretty sure you can't breed yourself with a turtle, but that was kind of weird. They then begin beating up a random cow, and honestly at this point I'm confused how this is even a speedrun. They then see some sugarcane, and once they get near it, I guess they feel some weird magical stuff because they randomly dig straight down and find some buried treasure. And the buried treasure has an andesite wall, and a stripped warped stem, torch flower seeds, and a sniffer egg? I didn't even know a sniffer egg was a thing. Well, the speedrunner takes this very questionable loot and builds out of the hole. They then start placing down their blocks until they get whatever the heck this is. And I think this gives them some weird powers or something because they suddenly now have creative. They give themselves some obsidian and a flint and steel, even though since they're in creative, they could have just went to the end, where they built themselves a very weird looking nether portal and enter the nether. Once they're in the nether, they're now in survival mode, but that doesn't mean that the speedrun gets any faker, because directly where a mushroom is a chest, which is filled with eyes of ender. So they take all the eyes of ender and leave the nether. Once the speedrunner is back in the overworld, they search around a little bit until they find a cave. For some reason, this cave has an end portal that's already lit, which means that there was no reason for them to even get themselves any eyes of ender. Well, the speedrunner enters the end, but wait a minute, what? Are they on the end city? And why are there so many cows? Because cows can only spawn in mesa biomes. So cows being inside this end city makes literally no sense. Well, the speedrunner goes by all the cows until they find some chests which have some pretty good loot inside them. Not only that, they also get an elytra. But the thing is, the speedrunner never equips the elytra. They instead break a block and try to fly, but they can't and they die. This speedrun starts off pretty normal with the speedrunner going and mining a tree. But suddenly, the tree drops them some diamond gear, which I'm pretty sure trees do not drop you that. Well, once they're done mining the tree, they turn their logs into planks, and that's when they see a tree out in the distance, so they go over to the tree. But instead of mining this tree, they instead dig straight down right below the tree, and they find an already lit nether portal, which I'm pretty sure already lit nether portals are just simply not a thing. Well, the speedrunner goes into the nether portal and enters the nether. Once in the nether, the speedrunner finds a sign with an arrow on the sun, which I guess is there to direct them where they should go. So they go in that direction until they suddenly stop and mine through a wall where they find a chest. And the chest has a stack of blaze rods. So the speedrunner takes the blaze rods and makes their way back towards the nether portal. Once they're back in the overworld, they build out of their hole and begin wandering in a random direction where eventually they see a village out in the distance. So once the speedrunner speedrunner gets to the village, they see some frogs for some reason, even though I'm pretty sure frogs do not even spawn inside of random villages like this. Well, the speedrunner ignores the frogs, and this is where they come up with an actually good idea for once. They start entering all the houses and breaking the beds, which is actually a pro speedrunner strategy. That's when they suddenly look at the church, which for some reason has no windows, and the front of the church looks quite strange. So they enter the church where they find an Enderman spawner. I'm pretty sure Enderman spawners are just simply not a thing, but I could be wrong. Well, eventually an Enderman spawns, and the speedrunner tries killing it, but every single time they hit it, the Enderman just teleports away, so they can never actually kill it to gain Ender Pearls. And I think this makes the speedrunner pretty angry, because out of nowhere, they suddenly have a stack of Ender Pearls. Well, now that the speedrunner has everything they need to go to the end, they enter this very weird looking house. Inside the house is an end portal, so the speedrunner clears out the middle of the end portal where there's wood at, to then take their blaze rods and turn it into blaze powder, and make themselves some Eyes of Ender. They place the Eyes of Ender into the portal and enter the end. Once in the end, the speedrunner goes towards the middle of the island and sets up their bed explosion cycle. They don't set it up correctly, so whenever they blow it up, they actually blow themselves up. And if we pause the speedrun here and look at the death message, it says the speedrunner was killed by an intentional game design. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know that death message was even a thing, which is honestly pretty cool. This speedrun starts off surprisingly pretty normal, other than the fact that they're literally in their third hotbar slot, but they begin the speedrun by mining a tree. They then turn their logs into planks and make themselves a crafting table. But as they open up the crafting table, they suddenly get Eyes of Ender. I'm kinda confused how they crafted Eyes of Ender even though all they had was wood. Well, now that the speedrunner has Eyes of Ender, they throw it into the air to see what the stronghold is. But as they do this, a sudden cut happens and now they're in the fortress and they're in creative, which is against the rules of speedrun. Well, the speedrunner places in all the Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once they're in the end, they go up to the dragon, punch it once, and that somehow kills it? And I guess that's how the speedrunner wins the speedrun. This speedrunner starts in a spruce village, but they're already on top of a tree, which is kind of a weird spawn. Not only that, the speedrunner already has some armor bars, which means they're wearing some sort of armor. Well, the speedrunner gets off of the tree and explores the inside of the village. But eventually, they find a wishing well with some ender pearls inside of it. Well, I'm pretty sure ender pearls don't just randomly spawn inside of wishing wells, but I could be wrong. The speedrunner takes the ender pearls and gets out of the well, but this is when we can see tons of random bells across the entirety of the village, which is honestly kind of weird. Well, the speedrunner goes deeper inside the village until they enter a house which has a chest. So they open the chest, but there is nothing inside of it. So they leave the house, but they suddenly have a stack of obsidian and a flint and steel. So I guess maybe the chest did have something inside of it. Well, the speedrunner builds the nether portal. Oh, wow. Well, the speedrunner builds the nether portal. Oh my god. Well, the speedrunner builds the nether portal and lights it. It only took them like 3 tries to build the nether portal, which is honestly pretty impressive. Well, the speedrunner goes into the nether, and they spawn right next to a warped forest. So they instantly go inside of it, where they find an ender chest. So they open the ender chest and find tons of blaze rods. Well, I guess they take the blaze rods and go back towards the portal and into the overworld. Once they're back in the overworld, they turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and make themselves some Eyes of Ender. They then throw their Eyes of Ender. Wait, why are they going the opposite direction? Well, I guess they begin to climb a tree, and that's where they find an end portal. Well, last time I checked, end portals spawn beneath ground, not above ground. Well, maybe I just missed an update or two. I don't know. Well, they place in the Eyes of Ender and enter into the end. Once the speedrunner's in the end, all things seem pretty normal. The dragon is flying around, all the end crystals are there. But why is the portal already here? I'm pretty sure the end portal only spawns there whenever the ender dragon is killed. And by the seams of it, the ender dragon is definitely alive. So I'm not sure how the portal is here. The speedrunner goes through the portal and beats the speedrunner. This speedrunner starts by mining some diamonds? Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. If you do not subscribe, I will actually be very sad. So you better subscribe. This speedrunner starts in what seems to be a pretty normal village. That is until they begin to look around and see this absolutely insane view. This must be one crazy scene. Well, as soon as the speedrunner turns around, they find some mushroom cows. Even though I'm pretty sure mushroom cows only spawn inside of fortresses, so I'm kind of confused why there's some of them here. Well, the speedrunner ignores the cows and goes around the village until they find a blacksmith, which of course has a chest. So they open the chest and find a leather tunic with a protection 4 enchantment enchanted book. I'm pretty sure those can't even spawn inside of blacksmiths, but okay. Well, they take the loot and find an anvil and begin to put protection 4 on the chest plate, but they need 4 XP. But if we look at the footage from before, they definitely only have like no XP at all because they just started the speedrun. Well, despite that, they still somehow managed to put it on the chest plate, and even when they get off of the anvil, they still have 0 XP, so I am very confused. Well, they put the chest plate on and explore more of the village, but that's when they find a flint and steel on top of a light post. Oh, I wonder who put that there. They take the flint and steel and begin heading down the mountain, and they even take some carrots. Once at the bottom of the mountain, they find this giant cave and begin fisting some random pieces of stone. Eventually, they break the stone, and on the other side is another portal that's not lit. Well, it's a good thing they got that flint and steel then, huh? They light the portal and enter the nether. Once they're in the nether, wait, what the heck? What am I looking at? Well, apparently mushrooms can stop flowing lava, which definitely makes sense. Once they turn around and go back towards the portal, and that's when we can see that they spawn right next to a fortress, which has gotta be a very lucky spawn. The speedrunner enters the fortress and begins just wandering around until they find a spawner. They punch the spawner and then just run away and go back to the portal and leave the nether, even though they killed 0 blazes, so they have 0 blaze rods. When they're back in the overworld, wait, why do they have a blaze rod? Well, alright then. They begin trying to get out of the cave that they're in, but let me tell you something, they struggle a lot. And eventually, the speedrun just randomly cuts, and they're back in the village. The speedrunner then finds this bell on the wishing well, and begins just ringing it over and 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 over again for the next 15 minutes, even though I thought this was a speedrun. Eventually, they stop ringing the bell and go into the wishing well, where they find an end portal, which honestly is kinda weird. Well, the end portal is missing 1 eye of ender, and they have a blaze rod, but they don't have an ender pearl. Wait, what? Well, they take the ender pearl and make themselves an eye of ender. They place in the eye of ender, and now they're stuck in a box. So once again, they just cut the speedrun and they're out of the hole. They start making their way towards the middle of the island, where suddenly we can see tons of wandering traders. And when I say tons, I mean tons, because oh my god, look at them. But there's also no ender dragon, so I'm pretty sure all of these wandering traders just killed the ender dragon. So the speedrunner just goes to the portal and wins the speedrun, I guess. Now this speedrun is extremely weird, because they very clearly start inside of an oak forest, but then they begin to mine a tree. They mine 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks of the tree, but as soon as they look down from the tree, they're suddenly in a spruce forest. Not only that, there's also a village. So they begin walking around the village until they spot a very small looking house. And everyone knows villagers' houses are typically bigger than this. So they go up to the house and open the door and find a sign that says happy birthday? Oh, I guess it's a speedrunner's birthday. Well, happy birthday, speedrunner, I guess. Below the sign is a chest, which I'm guessing is their birthday present. They open the chest and find a stack of obsidian and a flint and steel, which means the speedrunner can now enter the nether. So they use the obsidian to make a nether portal and enter the nether. Once in the nether, they get lucky enough to spawn directly inside of a nether fortress, which I can only assume is birthday luck. But suddenly tons of mobs start chasing them, so they use their obsidian to block them off and turn around and find a chest. Now don't get me wrong, chests can spawn inside of nether fortresses, it's just the items inside this chest make the speedrun very questionable. Well, they open the chest and find extremely overpowered loot. I'm pretty sure netherite armor can't even spawn inside of nether fortresses. Well, legit or not, they take the loot and begin exploring the nether fortress. But as they're exploring it, they find a very weird looking soul sand block. Soul sand blocks do indeed spawn inside the nether. They don't just randomly spawn inside of another fortress like this block. And this isn't even the only soul sand block that they find, because as soon as they turn, they find another one, and another one, and another one. Okay, I think this speedrunner placed down these soul sand blocks, that way they don't get lost in the nether fortress. Well, things are about to get even more weird, because I suddenly see a blaze, but instead of killing it like a normal speedrunner would, they instead walk right by it, and break through the wall, and block the wall up. But right next to them is a ruin portal. So they open the chest to the ruin portal, and find tons of ender eyes. Okay, I'm pretty sure ender eyes do not spawn inside of ruin portals, but you know, it could just be that birthday luck. They take the eyes of ender, they then begin wandering around the nether until they suddenly decide to dig straight down, which of course leads them directly next to the nether portal. They go inside the portal. Once in the overworld, they throw their eyes of ender to see where the stronghold is. Wait, what? Why is it straight down? I guess the speedrunner spawned directly above the stronghold, which is unbelievably lucky. Well, instead of digging straight down right then and there, they instead decide to follow this path inside the village until they spot this random spruce log inside the path. They stand on the block and break it, which makes them fall down this ginormous deep hole, which of course leads them directly to the end portal. They break the silverfish spawner and place in the eyes of ender just so they can enter the end. But once in the end, I can tell that something is very fishy, because as they're walking around, we can easily just realize that there's simply no ender dragon. Well, the speedrunner makes it to the middle and spots a sign. As they get closer, closer, they read the sign that says, Ender Dragon doesn't feel like playing today? Maybe the Ender Dragon is just sick or something. Well, they just go through the portal and easily win. This speedrun starts out pretty suspicious, because if you look down inside their hotbar, they are inside of their second hotbar slot, even though they're supposed to be in their first one. Not only this, their crosshair is off-centered with the tree in front of them, and you are always looking perfectly straight whenever you start a speedrun. So far, that is already two things that we can point out about the speedrun before it even started. The speedrunner immediately runs straight and begins mining the tree. And as the speedrunner is mining the tree, they say this.
Oh wait, there's an iron golem! Another iron golem! Another iron golem! Oh, my iron golem!
Yeah, for some reason inside of this village, there are an insane amount of iron golems. I honestly think they just placed down these iron golems themselves, where the speedrunner mines another log and turns their logs into planks, which they then use to make themselves a crafting table. And they use the crafting table to make themselves a sword. They then use this sword to start critting out the iron golems, but as we can see, the iron golem is not attacking them. This is because whenever you make an iron golem, it doesn't attack the person who made it. So because of this, the speedrunner crits out tons and tons of iron golems and goes back to their crafting table to make themselves an iron sword. Now that they have an iron sword, try and guess what they're going to do. Well, if you guess that they were gonna kill some more iron golems, you're right, because they kill even more iron golems. Once they have 26 pieces of iron, they make themselves full iron armor. They then break their crafting table and even steal some potatoes from this farm. That's when they start heading in a complete random direction. After about 20 seconds, they find a ruin portal. Once they get closer, they open the chest and find surprisingly some pretty normal loot. That's when they suddenly break the chest, and underneath it is another chest, which is genuinely very confusing. Inside the chest is a stack of obsidian, which is definitely real. The speedrunner takes the stack of obsidian, and what's about to happen next makes me convinced that the speedrunner never even went to kindergarten, because they have no idea what a normal rectangle looks like, because they tried building another portal, but of course they absolutely fail. So they try building another portal, and they fail again. But it's okay, because third time is a charm, and they make the nether portal correctly. They then light the nether portal and enter the nether. Once on the nether, they say this.
Oh wait, I have to do something to find the fortress real quick. Give me a second.
Yeah, apparently they have to do something to find the fortress, and that's when they suddenly go inside of creative. They then type inside chat /locate structure fortress, which gives them the exact coordinates to the closest fortress, which in case you couldn't tell is literally cheating. Well, now that they have the coordinates, they start flying over to the fortress until they finally make it.
Oh my god, the fortress is right here!
Now that they're in the fortress, they put themselves back into survival and say this.
Alright guys, I cut it out, but we are now in the fortress.
Well, apparently they were supposed to cut out them going inside of creative, but I guess they forgot. The speedrunner starts going around the fortress, and I genuinely think they're lost. At one point, they even walk past two of these piglins and say this.
That was pretty good, my thing.
Yeah, apparently those piglins are in the speedrunner's gang, I guess. And the speedrunner goes around the fortress for another 10 minutes, and they are struggling to find the blaze spawner. That's when they turn their game mode into spectator and say this.
Where the heck is the thingy?
Yeah, they're looking for the thingy, which I'm guessing is the blaze spawner. Eventually, they find the blaze spawner, and they just start randomly punching the blaze spawner with their sword.
Hiya, 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 hiya.
And that's when they look over the edge and say this.
What the heck?
What the heck, I thought. I think they tried to place down a chest or something here, but it's for some reason gone. That's when the speedrunner realizes that they're at the wrong blaze spawner. So they go back into spectator mode and finds the other blaze spawner and says this.
Alright guys, now I'm at the spawner thing.
They then start punching the blaze spawner again. And then they look over the edge and find a chest.
Boom, I spawned to the chest because I hit the blaze spawner and it spawned a chest.
Yeah, they hit the blaze spawner and it spawned a chest. Okay, I don't know. I'm so confused. Well, they open the chest and find some blaze rods. So, of course, the speedrunner takes all of the blaze rods, and then they say they're gonna go back towards the portal.
Alright guys, now I'm gonna go back towards the portal.
So, of course, they turn their game mode back into creative, and as they're flying to find their portal, they find this innocent baby Strider and do this.
Oh, baby spider.
Yeah, this speedrunner's definitely got some issues, I'm not going to lie. Eventually, they do find their portal, they then turn their game mode back into survival, and then they say this.
Alright guys, I made it to the portal. I didn't
Apparently, they cut it out where they went back towards the portal because it's super boring and it's hard for them to get back because they're in survival. Yeah, let's just pretend we didn't see them going creative and fly over or anything. That'd be weird. Well, the speedrunner goes into the portal. Now that they're in the overworld, they head back towards the village and start doing a bunch of completely random things, like going inside of houses, opening the chests, but not taking anything. They even go inside of one of the houses, which has a birch staircase, which in case you could not tell, is not naturally generated. And that's when they go inside of creative and start digging a random hole for some odd reason. They then start flying in a completely random direction all of a sudden and say this.
I'm gonna fly over here because I feel like it.
Yeah, they're gonna fly over here because they feel like it. Yup, sounds good to me. They continue to fly over in this direction for about 5 minutes until they find a village. And inside the village is a giant pillar.
I did not place that there. I have no idea how it got there.
Yeah, I'm sure the speedrunner definitely did not place that there because they said they didn't, and we have to believe them. The speedrunner makes their game mode back into survival and then says this.
Alright guys, I'm still inside of this same village.
For some reason, they said they're inside of the same exact village from before, but they're obviously not because we watched them fly for literally 5 minutes straight to a completely random village.
I'm gonna see what's inside. Oh, it's like a hole. What the heck? Where does it lead to?
Where does it lead to? Honestly, I'm asking the same question. I'm just gonna take a random guess and say, maybe it's the stronghold. It's just a random guess though, and you know, if I'm right, maybe you guys should probably subscribe. Well, the speedrunner goes inside of creative and then goes straight down the hole, and what do you know? They're in the stronghold. So I guess that means that everyone should, I don't know, probably subscribe. They then turn their game mode into survival, and they say this.
Oh, it's an egg portal. What the heck? Oh, no, wait. I don't have eyes of ender.
Yeah, the speedrunner doesn't have Eyes of Ender because they never killed any endermen or traded with piglins to be able to get themselves some ender pearls. But don't you worry because then this happens.
Where am I gonna find eyes of ender? Oh my goodness, a chest! Oh, ender pearls! That's exactly what I needed! I'm so lucky!
Wow, you're so lucky. I agree. I'm so proud of you. Yeah. I'm sick and tired of this speedrunner. Can this speedrun just end already? All right, well, the speedrunner takes the ender pearls and puts the blaze rods and the ender pearls inside their inventory, but for some reason, it's not creating Eyes of Ender. Yeah, this speedrunner literally has no idea how to even make Eyes of Ender. This is genuinely just embarrassing at this point. Eventually, they figure it out and place in the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, they go to the middle island, and of course, they go back into creative. They then type inside chat /kill at E, which kills the ender dragon, and turn their game mode back into survival and says this.
Oh my god, guys, I killed the ender dragon! Yay! I cut it out because it was probably gonna be boring for you guys, so I didn't want you guys to be bored, so I cut out because the ender dragon.
Yeah, apparently them killing the ender dragon was gonna be boring for us, which is probably the most exciting part of an entire speedrun. But hey, that's just my opinion. Well, now that the ender dragon is dead, the speedrunner goes to the portal and wins the speedrun. This speedrun starts right in front of a village. So the speedrunner goes into the village and they're right next to a blacksmith. So they enter the blacksmith, but wait, did you see it? Once they entered the blacksmith, the door was already open. So if they just started the world, the door definitely should not be open. Well, once the speedrunner loots the chest inside the blacksmith, they find some seemingly pretty normal loot. And they also have enough obsidian to make themselves a nether portal, which is insanely lucky to get from a blacksmith. The speedrunner leaves the blacksmith and builds themselves the nether portal, but they don't have any flint and steel. But that's when they go down to a little pond down below and find some gravel and get some flint on their third try. They then go back to the portal and light it and go into the nether. But this is where things get rather strange, because as soon as they're in the nether, they find tons of silverfish. But the thing is, silverfish don't even spawn inside the nether, because they can only spawn inside of end cities, which makes this part of the speedrun completely fake. Well, all the silverfish start heading towards the speedrunner, and the speedrunner has nowhere to go. And that's when the speedrunner gets hit off the side of the cliff and somehow lands directly on a hay bale. But hay bales can't even spawn naturally inside the nether, which makes me believe that they placed this here beforehand. Well, as the speedrunner is exploring the nether, they suddenly gain an ender pearl out of nowhere. So they throw their ender pearl, and once it lands, they look around a little bit until they break this specific block, which has a chest. But wait, I have a weird feeling that this chest is gonna have some very suspicious precious loot inside of it. So if I'm right, I think everyone should subscribe. Where the speedrunner opens the chest and finds a stack of Eyes of Ender, which if you ask me is pretty suspicious, so you should subscribe. Well, now that the speedrunner has a stack of Eyes of Ender, they then for some reason kill this ghast and find another nether portal. So they go through the nether portal, and once they're back in the overworld, they instantly find an end portal. Alright, I'm pretty sure end portals don't just randomly spawn on the surface like this. The speedrunner places in the Eyes of Ender, but for some reason they don't enter the end. They instead start digging straight down where they find tons of diamonds, but I'm pretty sure diamonds don't even spawn on this Y level. Not to mention, it was also a 19 vein of diamonds, which is completely impossible. When now that the speedrunner has 19 diamonds, they go to a tree to make themselves a crafting table and craft themselves some diamond armor. They then enter the end, where they do this very weird bridging stuff that I've never seen before. But that's when we realize that the Ender Dragon is already one hit. But whenever the speedrunner gets closer to the Ender Dragon, we can see that for some reason there is no bedrock area for the speedrunner to go through the portal at, which is actually kind of weird. Where the speedrunner just hits the Ender Dragon one time, and that's when the portal magically appears. So the speedrunner goes through it and beats the game. The speedrunner starts by finding a villager and entering the villager's house. They then start mining a tree. Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Subscribe, please. Just do it. Subscribe, I'm begging you. Just subscribe already, please. This speedrun starts inside of an acacia village. But we also see some orange particle effects coming off of the speedrunner, where the speedrunner goes up to a tree and begins mining it. But as they're mining the tree, they suddenly gain a stack of obsidian. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure trees don't drop you obsidian. Where the speedrunner turns their wood into planks and makes himself a crafting table. They then use the obsidian to make themselves a nether portal. But they don't have a flint and steel. Wait, what the heck? Where they take the flint and steel from the item frame and light the nether portal. Once the speedrunner is in the nether, they look around and by the seams of it, they got a pretty bad nether spawn. That is until they suddenly trip inside of a pool of lava, but they're not taking any damage, which explains the particle effects we saw at the beginning of the speedrun, where the lava leads them into a secret area, where they suddenly find a PP trader. I don't remember a PP trader being inside of Minecraft, but maybe I just missed an update or something. Where the speedrunner opens the chest and finds a stack of Eyes of Ender. Alright, I'm pretty sure that the speedrunner is definitely cheating. They take the stack of Eyes of Ender and then decide to break a wall where they find another nether portal. So they go through the portal, and once they're in the overworld, they throw their Eyes of Ender, which directs them to a giant pink staircase. So the speedrunner goes closer to the staircase and begins climbing it. And once they get to the top, they can see that the staircase leads them to an end portal. Even though I'm pretty sure end portals don't spawn at the end of giant pink staircases, where the speedrunner places in their Eyes of Ender and enters the end. But once they're in the end, they start building towards the island, but once they get there, they realize that there is no Ender Dragon. Instead, they see some balls of XP, which only drops whenever you kill the Ender Dragon. So I think the speedrunner went in creative and just killed the Ender Dragon before they even started the speedrun, which is against the rules of speedrunning. Well, since there's no Ender Dragon, the speedrunner just goes to the portal and beats the game. This speedrun starts right next to a ruined portal, but not only that, there's also a village. So the speedrunner makes their way over towards the ruined portal, where they open the chest and find some pretty normal loot, other than the fact that there's literally a diamond pickaxe. And if you know anything about Minecraft, you know that diamond pickaxes usually do not spawn inside of ruined portal chests. Where the speedrunner takes all the loot and then begins making their way into the village. They enter the closest house, where they find this weird tentacle thingy, but for some reason they just ignore it and go to the second floor, where they find an ender chest. Well, ender chests don't even spawn inside of Minecraft, you have to make them, which means the only way for the ender chest to be here is if the speedrunner placed it. Well, the speedrunner opens the chest and finds some, well, you know, questionable loot. Well, the speedrunner takes that loot as well and leaves the house. They try to build another portal but fail, so they try again and fail again. Well, third time is a charm, so they do indeed build another portal. They also use their fire charge that they got from the ruined portal and light the nether portal. Once the speedrunner is in the nether, they just start running in a random direction, and at one point they nearly almost die, which I thought was pretty funny, but they then just continue running until we get to this point here. We can see that there is some netherrack black, but one of the blocks is a little bit brighter than the other. This is because instead of it being a netherrack, it is nether wart, which wouldn't randomly spawn right here. So the speedrunner goes up to the nether wart, breaks it, and finds a chest, which has a stack of eyes of ender. So the speedrunner takes their eyes of ender, but instead of them showing them walking all the way back, as they're running, it suddenly cuts and they're just back at the nether portal. But cutting footage inside of a speedrun is actually against the rules, which means despite them obviously cheating before, that cut alone would just ruin their speedrun. Well, once the speedrunner is back in the overworld, things get insanely weird, because within 2 seconds of them being back, we can instantly see a dragon egg. Not only that, for some reason, there are tons of ladders around the entire village. It's like the speedrunner tried to make the speedrun as fake as possible. Well, the speedrunner clearly needs some food, so they steal some carrots from a villager. They then walk around the village some more until we can see a random sponge out in the distance. Like I said, it's like they were trying to make it obvious that it's fake. The speedrunner then for some reason builds this very cool looking structure and then finds a cave lit up by tons of glowstone. And glowstone obviously does not just randomly spawn inside of caves. They follow the glowstone where they eventually see an end portal. So they place in their eyes of ender and enter the end. But as soon as they're in the end, they get shot by a wither. I think the ender dragon spawns here, not the wither. But the speedrunner speed bridges to the middle island, where we realize that it's not just one wither, it's multiple withers and the ender dragon. All the withers start attacking the speedrunner and even the ender dragon. The speedrunner tries fighting them off and even starts trying to kill the ender dragon, but the speedrunner's literally broken 0 end crystals. But I guess that doesn't matter because the ender dragon keeps coming down to perch and the speedrunner is doing tons of damage. And despite there being tons of withers and an ender dragon, the speedrunner still kills the ender dragon and somehow wins the speedrun. If you liked that video, you should probably watch this video as well because I'm sure it's just as cool.